Have you ever found yourself in a relationship where, despite all your efforts, something just doesn't seem right? Maybe you feel distant, misunderstood, or stuck in the same patterns of conflict that you can't break free from? It's as if there's an invisible force pulling you back into old, unhealthy dynamics. But what if I told you that the real issue isn't the other person, but something inside of you? What if the key to understanding and healing your relationships lies in a concept from Carl Jung's psychology, something he called the shadow? In today's video, we will explore how the shadow influences your relationships, why it often creates conflicts, and how understanding this part of yourself can bring deep healing and transformation. We all have a shadow, those parts of ourselves that we prefer to hide, deny, or repress. But when these unconscious aspects show up in our relationships, they often create tension and misunderstanding. Jung believed that the key to overcoming these challenges is not avoiding or denying the shadow, but integrating it. Today we'll explore how facing your shadow can lead to healthier, more fulfilling relationships. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow refers to the unconscious parts of our psyche that we often try to ignore or repress. These parts can include emotions, desires, traits, or behaviors that we deem unacceptable or undesirable. The shadow is not necessarily negative, but it is often perceived as such because it contains aspects of ourselves that we have learned to hide or deny. Jung believed that everyone has a shadow, and it is not inherently evil or harmful. In fact, it can hold immense power and potential. However, when we fail to acknowledge or integrate these parts of ourselves, they can influence our behavior in ways we don't fully understand. This is particularly true in relationships. You may have noticed how certain behaviors or emotions keep repeating in your relationships. Maybe you feel triggered by certain actions or words that seem disproportionate to the situation. Often these emotional reactions are manifestations of our shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves that we've never fully confronted. In relationships, the shadow can show up in various ways. It might appear as unconscious patterns of behavior that keep repeating, even though you consciously want to change them. For example, you might find yourself continually attracting partners who are emotionally unavailable. Or you might notice that you're quick to anger over things that seem trivial. These repeated patterns are often signals that parts of our shadow are influencing our interactions. When you don't address these hidden aspects of yourself, they begin to project onto others. This projection creates misunderstandings and conflict because you are reacting not to the person in front of you, but to the parts of yourself that you haven't yet acknowledged. A common example of this is the dynamic of dependency in relationships. If you were taught to suppress your needs or to be overly independent growing up, your shadow might project itself onto your partner, making you feel dependent or resentful when they don't meet your emotional needs. On the flip side, you may also project your shadow onto others by expecting them to be everything you're not able to be for yourself. When shadow elements remain unconscious, they can cause significant tension and conflict in our relationships. This is because the emotions or traits we repress often make their way into our interactions, manifesting as overreactions, defensiveness, or misunderstandings. For example, if someone has a shadow of anger that they never allow themselves to express, they might react explosively when they feel criticized or dismissed, even if the situation doesn't warrant such a response. This overreaction is often a defense mechanism, a way of protecting the ego from feeling vulnerable. Another example is the fear of abandonment. If you've repressed feelings of abandonment in your childhood, your shadow might cause you to behave in ways that create distance or self-sabotage in relationships. You may push people away before they have a chance to leave, driven by the unconscious belief that they will inevitably abandon you, as your shadow has predicted. Jung believed that the shadow shows up in relationships to challenge us and push us to grow. It is through these unconscious patterns that we have an opportunity to recognize and integrate the parts of ourselves that need healing. In other words, our partners are often mirrors of our shadow, reflecting back to us what we need to see in order to grow. Recognizing your shadow in relationships requires self-awareness and a willingness to look inward. Here are some ways you can begin to identify your shadow and understand its impact on your relationships. Notice your emotional triggers. Pay attention to moments when you feel overly reactive or emotional. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Is this truly about the situation at hand, or is there something deeper at play? Often, intense emotional reactions are signals that your shadow is being triggered. Observe patterns of behavior. Look at the recurring dynamics in your relationships. Are there certain behaviors you repeatedly see in your partners or in yourself? These recurring patterns often reveal unconscious shadow material that you haven't yet dealt with. Examine your projections. When you find yourself judging others or feeling resentful, ask yourself if these judgments reflect something about your own shadow. Do you have traits that you dislike in others? Often, what we reject in others is a reflection of what we reject in ourselves. Get feedback from trusted people. Sometimes it's hard to see our shadow on our own. Trusted friends or therapists can help us see patterns and behaviors that we might be blind to. This feedback is essential in helping us understand our unconscious impulses. Integrating your shadow is not about eliminating it, but rather embracing it and making it a conscious part of your life. When you integrate your shadow, you stop projecting it onto others, and instead, you own it as a part of yourself. Here's how to begin the process of integration. Self-awareness. Begin by becoming more aware of your thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Journaling, mindfulness, and meditation can help you connect with your inner world and identify when your shadow is influencing your behavior. Acceptance. Accept that your shadow is part of who you are. It's not something to be ashamed of, but something that can help you grow. Recognizing and accepting these parts of yourself allows you to be more authentic and less reactive in your relationships. Express your emotions healthily. One of the best ways to integrate your shadow is by allowing yourself to express your emotions in healthy, constructive ways. Instead of suppressing your anger or fear, learn to express it through communication or creative outlets like writing or art. Communicate with your partner. When you notice your shadow showing up in your relationship, have an honest conversation with your partner. Share your feelings, not as accusations, but as reflections of your inner world. This vulnerability can create deeper understanding and intimacy. Seek therapy or counseling. If the shadow continues to disrupt your relationships, therapy can be an invaluable tool. A trained therapist can help you identify unconscious patterns and guide you through the process of healing and integration. Facing and integrating your shadow is one of the most powerful steps you can take toward healing and growth. By understanding and embracing the hidden parts of yourself, you open the door to healthier, more fulfilling relationships. Remember, your shadow is not your enemy. It is a part of you that, once acknowledged, can bring profound transformation and clarity into your life. Thank you for joining me in exploring the shadow and its impact on relationships. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content on Carl Jung's insights into psychology and personal growth. Remember, the key to healthier relationships is not to change the other person, but to change and understand yourself. Embrace your shadow and watch your relationships transform. If you found this video helpful, leave a comment below sharing your thoughts and experiences with the shadow. How has it shown up in your relationships? Don't forget to subscribe for more videos on self-awareness, personal growth, and Carl Jung's teachings.